How does a restaurant, or any business for that matter, make money? The basic idea is that you want to have more money coming in than what you have going out. Our business is going to be a restaurant, and we're going to call it Bill's Burger Barn, and we're going to go through and set up a quarterly report to show the different sales that have happened over the last 3 months. On the top, we're going to have our profit section. And we're going to have January, February, and March. Now, using the auto fill-in feature from what we had talked about earlier, we can fill in the next 2 months so we don't have to type it out. It makes it faster. We're also going to come up here and we're going to highlight the background to make it stand out a little bit. For a profit, we can have several different things, but we're going to keep it basic. We're going to have burgers. We're going to say close. Appetizers, salads, and toys. And down here, we're going to have our expenses category. And the different expenses we can have, we're going to have utilities, labor, rent, insurance, and then the cost of the food. There are more profit and expenses than that, but that's what we're going to start out with. Now that we have our basic profit and expenses set up, we can go ahead and continue setting up the quarterly report. You'll notice I've already typed in the numbers here for the dollar amounts for the profit and expenses category. So for here, we're going to have gross profit, and down here we're going to have total expense. And once again, we're going to go through and make these both bold so they stand out a little bit better. And we're going to go up here and highlight the background for the cells just like we did before. Now we can use our auto sum formula to go ahead and calculate the total profit and the total expenses. Just like we had discussed before, you always have to start a formula with the equal sign. We're going to have equals sum, open parenthesis, and we're going to have B3 through B7. Remember, the colon is read as the word through in Excel. Once you close your parenthesis in the cell, we can hit the enter key and you'll notice all of these numbers added together equals 2,870. We can come down here for the total expenses and do the same thing. Equals sum, open parenthesis, B11 through B15. Now, obviously we're dealing with money, so we can come up here and highlight all of our cells, and Excel will format the cells for us. We can come up here and we simply hit the $ button right here, and it automatically changes everything to be formatted as money. Lastly, we need to come up and figure our net profit, and we're going to do that down here. We're going to type net profit, and we're going to make it bold just like we did before. And also we're going to highlight the row. Now then, if you'll recall from earlier, net profit, you take your total money coming in and you subtract off the expenses going out. And whatever's left over is your net profit. Remember from the doghouse example? So we're in this example, we're going to take equals. Once again, we're dealing with a formula, and we have B8, and then we're going to subtract B16. Once you have that typed in, you can hit enter, and you'll notice for January our net profit is $220. Now, you may not think that's a lot, but remember, our business just now opened, and so you have a lot of expenses in the beginning to pay, so you may not have a very good net profit. You'll notice I've already went through and typed in all the numbers for February and March. So let's go through and format it and make it look proper. Once again, we're dealing with money, so all of these cells need to be formatted as such. We can do that by simply highlighting all of the cells that need to be money, and then come up here and hit the dollar sign. Now, you'll notice that some of the cells turned into a bunch of pound signs. Why does it do that? Well, that's Excel's way of saying, hey, there's a number in this cell, but the cell's not wide enough to accept the number that's there. To fix this, we need to make the column a little bit wider. To do that, there are two methods. I could bring my mouse up here and put it to the right of the column, and I could double click. When I do that, it makes the column wide enough to accept whatever text or numbers is in those particular cells. The other way is to just simply click, hold, and drag. In fact, I can make it as wide as I want to if I wanted to, or I can make it as skinny as I wanted to. The easiest thing to do is just double click, and Excel will make the column wide enough to accept whatever information is in that particular column. Now, we've already got our formulas set up, so there's really no need to set them up again. Remember, if we want to see what we did, we can double click a cell, and when we do that, it brings the formula up, and it also highlights the individual cells saying, hey, these are the cells that are being referenced in this individual formula. Another nice feature of Excel. Obviously, these two cells are going to be the same idea, so I can use the auto fill-in feature or the auto-complete feature, kind of like we did with January, February, and March, and I can drag my formula over. And since it has a pattern to it, basically the cells right above it's what it's going to be adding up, we can double click just to make sure. C3 through C7, that's what I want here. Now, one key note to remember here. Right now I am in an active cell, so if I click somewhere else, it's going to think that I'm trying to add that particular cell where I had clicked into the formula. You'll also notice that we're in an active cell by looking at the buttons at the top. They're all grayed out and you can't click on anything like typical. To get out of an active cell or an active formula, you hit the escape key and it takes everything back to normal. Let's come over here and double check this one just to make sure it worked. We double click and you'll notice it's doing exactly what we want it to do. It's adding up the cells right above the formula. The same idea with the total expenses. We can click on it and drag it over, and the auto fill-in feature will do the rest for us. Double checking once again, making sure that it's adding only the numbers just above it like we want, and sure enough it is. I hit the escape key to get out of my active cell, and we could do the same thing with net profit. Once again, double checking to make sure it's doing what we want. C8 minus C16. C8 minus C16. We want the gross profit, the total profit coming in for February, and subtract off the total expenses. That will be our net profit for February. And then obviously it's working the same for March. Gross profit minus total expenses is your net profit. Now, since this is a brand new business, would you think that we are in line for being a successful one? And the answer is yes, I would say so, because if you'll notice, in January we only cleared $220. But look at February. February we cleared $640. In March we are clearing almost $1,300. I would say that we are on the road to becoming a successful business. Some of the things that lead into that, let's look at the utilities to start with. You'll notice the utilities are going down over the course of the 3 months. One thing to remember is it's cold in January and it's not cold in March, so it doesn't take that much electricity to heat in March as it would in January. Also, there's a lot of cleaning to be done in January, and so you're going to use a lot more power vacuuming and sweeping and all that to get the store clean because it was just built. Let's talk about labor. Notice how the labor expenses are going down, but our gross sales are going up. How could that be? Well, when a store first starts out, do you think your employees are going to be as efficient as they possibly could? No. They don't know what they're doing. They're in the learning process. They're trying to figure everything out. But over the course of 3 months, they become more efficient and more speedy in figuring out what to do, and therefore it costs less in labor to be able to produce the same items.